We can all agree that Episode 7 of Invincible Season 4 is easily one of the best episodes we've had so far. But how does it actually compare to its comic counterpart from issues 75 and 76? Let's break it down. The episode kicks off with a massive, show-only flashback of the Viltrum Empire before the Great Purge. We see Emperor Argal, who, funnily enough, is voiced by the same actor as Megatron, while Thetis is voiced by Optimus Prime. Of course, Thetis rebels and assassinates Argal because of his cruelty. In the comics, we never really see Thetis' relationship with the other Viltrumites before his betrayal, but the show actually highlights his past, showing that even Grand Regent Thrag fought by his side and deeply respected him.
Thetis and I fought side by side at Capita Minor. He was the strongest among our company, the most ruthless.
The show also reveals exactly why the Great Purge begins. Thrag is elected as regent until an heir to Argal is found, and he immediately kicks off the purge to cull his people of all weakness. We even get a crazy cameo of Conquest craving more blood after the purge ends. He looks ready to fight Thrag right there, but backs down. Imagine if that fight happened, we would have never gotten Mark versus Conquest. Moving to the present, we finally get the adaptation of that iconic comic panel of Invincible and the Coalition allies. It was okay, not terrible, but not amazing. The show adds some great original scenes here. Mark recording a message for Eve, the group discussing their last meals, and Nolan expressing his fears to Thetis about Thetis wanting to execute half-breeds like Mark and Oliver. In the comics, this plays out differently. Mark and Nolan just chat about life on Taliscria, with Nolan admitting he wants to move there because he can't return to Earth. Also, show Thetis is way more zeroed in on eliminating Thrag than his comic counterpart was. Plus, the show heavily buffed Thetis, as we saw in Episode 6 when he was absolutely dog-walking Craig. But let's get to the main dish. When Space Racer arrives with the Ragnars, show Thrag is completely unbothered. Comic Thrag, however, is actually visibly shocked. He tells his Viltrumites to run and avoid them because the Ragnars are just too strong. Here is where the show takes a completely different direction. Nolan engages Thrag first, taking the fight to the surface of Viltrum, where they actually talk it out. This scene was amazing for both characters. Thrag genuinely tries to negotiate, offering Nolan a way back into the Empire without punishment. Nolan tries to reach a peaceful resolution, but Thrag makes it clear, Viltrum is their home, and he will rebuild it. Then, we get that absolutely tough shot of Thrag charging up his punch like he's airbending, hitting Nolan with a jaw-breaking uppercut that sends him into orbit. In the comics, a shorter version of this conversation happens after the planet is destroyed. Next up is the brutal maiming of Oliver. Mark yells that he killed Conquest, shocking the Viltrumites and prompting a very specific look from Anissa, foreshadowing a certain traumatizing event for later. Mark challenges Thrag, and we get the crazy impact frame of the Regent effortlessly tanking Mark's full-strength punch. In the comics, Mark doesn't get a warning about fighting Thrag alone. He underestimates the Regent, gets smacked away, and this prompts Oliver to attack while yelling his black hole joke. The show removed this dialogue entirely, but in the comic, Thrag actually responds with a joke of his own. "You are a funny one, I gather. Always cracking jokes. Very good. I enjoy a good joke myself. Stop me if you've heard this one." The punchline? Ripping Oliver's arm off and punching his jaw off. I kinda wish they kept that line, but I see why they cut it. The show also removed Mark's rage moment. In the comics, believing Oliver is dead, Mark crashes into Thrag, landing a flurry of attacks and actually making the Regent shed a single drop of blood to show his potential. We also need to talk about Battle Beast. The show low-key nerfed him. He was getting pushed around by regular Viltrumites like a support character. In the comic, Battle Beast is ragdolling Thula and holding off a swarm of Viltrumites. Then comes the biggest change of the episode, the destruction of Viltrum. In the show, Nolan initiates the charge, likely motivated by his earlier chat with Thrag. But in the comics, it's actually Thetis who comes up with the plan. Immediately after the explosion, Comic Mark frantically searches for Oliver, completely missing Thetis' death. Show Mark isn't quite as panicked. Also, Comic Thrag has more incentive to kill Thetis first out of revenge for destroying his planet. He even gives the heroes a brief second to grieve before vowing they're all next. In the show, Thrag immediately launches after Omni-Man for destroying Viltrum, but in the comics, Thrag charges Mark. This is where he tanks Mark's punch with ease and beats him to a bloody pulp. He literally starts crushing Mark's skull, screaming about his history and heritage being stolen. Nolan has to step in to save Mark. Battlebeast also tries to attack Thrag here, but Thrag just casually grabs him by the face and tosses him aside. Nolan drops the lore bomb that Thrag was genetically bred from birth to be the strongest Viltrumite. They know they stand no chance. The show adapted Thrag terrifyingly chasing Mark perfectly. Also in the comics, Thrag doesn't impale Nolan quite as abruptly as he does in the show. In fact, Nolan basically says his last words, expressing that no matter what happened, he always loved Mark, as Thrag holds both of them by the neck. Then, he sacrifices himself, kicking Mark away from the Viltrumite's grasp so he can escape, but Thrag catches him with ease. As he's about to end Mark, Nolan comes soaring in, prompting Thrag to impale him. Both versions are good in their own way. I do like how the show did it so suddenly. It made Thrag all the more terrifying. But I also like how the comics made Nolan try to sacrifice himself. Thrag decides to spare Mark. The comic features General Craig disobeying orders, trying to finish them off before Thrag stops him. The show cut this completely. Finally, Mark wakes up, congratulates Alan, and asks about his family. The comic goes into much more detail here, explaining that Oliver only survived because his Thraxan genes, combined with a Viltrumite brain, let him survive without oxygen longer. Alan also explains he can't track the Viltrumites anywhere. Mark realizes Thrag left them alive for a reason. He wants revenge, which means the Empire is heading to Earth. Honestly, the show handled the pacing of the ending better, but the comics delivered the brutality on another level. My only real gripes with the episode, the animation could have been a bit tighter in spots, and they definitely did Battlebeast dirty. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.